Hello and welcome to Learn with Hema's class. My dear students, in this video, I am going to provide you with the solutions of Evergreen Workbook for When Great Trees Fall poem, which is from your ICSE Grade 10 Treasure Chest book. I have already provided the solutions, Evergreen Workbook solutions for the Haunted Houses and the Gloves and the Lions, the previous two poems, and this is the third poem. There are a total of 8 passages and all the 8 passages have 5 questions in it. So we are going to do all the 8 passages along with the 5 questions in each passage. So let's move to the passage 1. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants slumber after safety. So this is your first passage. Question number 1 for this first passage. What does great trees represent in the poem? In the poem, the word great trees represent great men. Their death has been equated with the fall of a great or big tree. What does the shuddering of rocks on distant hills symbolize? The shuddering of rocks on distant hills symbolizes the far-reaching impact of the death of great men. Their death affects the people living far away also. How do animals behave when great trees fall? Why? When a great tree falls, animals get shocked. Lions also bend down and hide in grass. Elephants start walking in a strange way to seek shelter at some safe place. Their behavior undergoes change because they get afraid of the sudden shock. What happens to small things when great trees fall? Small things, including little creatures in the forest, also feel frightened on the fall of a great tree. They recoil, sit huddled together, and turn silent out of fear. Which words used in this extract give us the idea that the fall of great trees impact all? The words rocks on distant hills shudder and even elephants slumber for safety give the idea that the fall of great trees impact all. Their fall is felt at distant places also. So before moving ahead, one small request, dear children. Every time I do that, if you are not a subscriber to my channel, it's a request, humble request, please do subscribe my channel and help me to reach my 100k subscriber target in this within this year or within 2-3 months, and that would be great if you'll support me. So this is the passage 2. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. What does the fall of great trees symbolize in the poem? The fall of great trees in the poem symbolizes the death of great men. What happens to big animals when great trees fall? Big animals get frightened, their behavior changes. Animals like lions and elephants also run to seek shelter at some safe place. What happens to small things when great trees fall? Small things turn silent and their senses become numb. They recoil and sit huddled in fear. Explain the meaning of their senses or eroded beyond fear. Answer. Their senses eroded beyond fear means that these small creatures are so shocked on the fall of a big tree that their senses fail to realize the intensity of the fear. They get dazed. When great men die, what kind of clarity do we have all of a sudden? Answer. When great men die, all of us remember the times spent in their company very clearly. We also regret that we could be more kind to them during their stay with us. Now this is the third passage. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly, our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. First question. What image from the world of nature has been used earlier in the context? The image of small things recoiling with fears has been used to refer to the shock resulting from the death of great men or the fall of big trees in a forest. What happens when great trees fall? The impact of the fall of great trees is felt by all. Animals and small creatures also get frightened. The distant lands and rocks on them shudder. Question 3. We breathe briefly. What does the poet mean by this? The poet has used the words "we breathe" briefly to say that it becomes difficult even to have normal breath when great men die. It happens because of the shock and jolt caused by the death and the sense of loss resulting from it. Fourth question. What kind of clarity does the poet refer to? The poet refers to the feeling of hurt people experience at the loss of a great soul. It reminds us of the promises we could not fulfill for them and the way we could not show our intended respect and kindness towards them during their lifetime. What do we come to remember when great men die? We remember all the unsaid words and undone works that we could do while the great men were alive. We also recollect the days spent in their company. Now this is the passage 4. Our memory suddenly sharpened, examiners, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. What happens when great trees fall according to the poet? When great trees fall, they cause a commotion everywhere. The jolt of the fall is felt far and wide. The animals and creatures in the forest feel shocked. Why does it become difficult to breathe when great souls die? When great souls die, it becomes difficult to breathe because of the shock felt due to the loss. What do we come to remember suddenly when great souls die? We come to realize that we have not been as kind towards the departed souls as we could be. In what state of mind is the speaker here? The speaker is in a sorrowful and repentant mood. Explain the phrase promised walks never taken in its context. Promised walks never taken in the given context means the failure to redeem the pledges taken. It also means the undone work that could be completed during the lifetime of the great men. Passage 5. Great souls die and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us, our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink wizened. What does the fall of great trees symbolize in the poem as suggested earlier in the context? The fall of great trees symbolizes the death of great men. What do we remember when great souls die? When great souls die, we remember them and the way we could do better things in their company. We also remember our failures and unkept promises. What happens to our reality when great souls die? The death of great souls dissociates our reality linked with them. It moves away from us. We no longer feel related to them as before. Their departure leaves us emotionally shattered. What does the poet mean by wizened souls here? The wizened souls in the given context means shriveled and shattered souls of the people who feel the loss of the great men. What does the word nurture suggest in the context? The word nurture suggests that the great souls used to be a source of strength and support to the people. Their death takes away their strength and leaves these people helpless. Sixth passage. Our minds formed and informed by their radiance fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of the dark cold caves. How has the poet compared the world of nature with the human world earlier in the context? The poet has compared the human and the natural world by depicting the impact of the fall of a big tree on the animals in a forest and the way it is similar to the impact of a great man's death on the human world. What happens when someone emotionally attached to us depart forever? We feel shocked and emotionally shattered. We remember the days spent in the company of our nears and dears. All this is felt deeply when someone near to us departs forever. How are our minds affected by great souls? Our minds are shattered and sorrowful. We feel reduced to miserable souls as the shock of the death of our dear ones affect our mind deeply. In what state of mind are we thrown when great souls die? We are thrown in a shock. Our mind fails to work properly. The mind goes in a deeply disturbed state. Explain the reference to the ignorance of dark, cold caves. Our minds are shaped by the intellect and guidance of great men. After their death, we feel thrust into dark dungeons of ignorance. Passage 7. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always, irregularly, spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. What is suggested by the fall of great trees earlier in the context? The fall of great trees in the given context suggests the death of great men and the way their death has a far-reaching impact on the natural and the human world. How do we feel when great men die? We feel emotionally shattered and deeply pained when great men die. The loss of the great souls appear unbearable. How does the poet portray time as a healer here? The poet suggests that time acts as a great healer. The death of great men causes deep shock and immense sorrow. Gradually, time helps us in accepting the loss of great souls and a kind of calm prevails in our mind. What kind of spaces are referred to here? The spaces here refers to the parts of our mind which are filled with sufferings and pain over the death of great men. These corners of our mind start soothing down with the passage of time and we turn calm and peaceful. How do we feel during those spaces? The spaces, that is the haunting feeling of loss of the departed dear ones, make our thoughts sterile and full of despair. We remember the dead with painful intensity. Last passage. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed, we can be and be better, for they existed. How do we feel when the persons attached to us die? We feel shocked, shattered and sorrowful when someone attached to us die. We remember the time spent in the company of the dear departed ones. When do we feel at peace when great souls die? The death of great people affects us deeply. Our mind feels disturbed and heart is full of pain, but a sense of calm returns to us after some time. It happens with the passage of time and the moment we realize that if great men like our dear ones have existed, we too can be like them. Why do our senses never achieve the former state of normalcy after the death of great souls? Our senses never achieve the former state of normalcy after the death of great souls because we always remember their existence and feel the loss. What is the significance of the repetition of words in lines 3 and 4? The repetition of the words is intended to emphasize the idea that we, that is people, will certainly be better by learning from the lives of great men. The ending of the poem is quite positive. How? The ending of the poem gives the message of acceptance of loss with the hope of a better future. It makes the ending positive. Thank you. The entire question and answer session is over. We'll soon meet in the next video. Till then, stay safe, stay secure. Thank you.